In 2008, California rock band Weezer released their third self-titled album, The Red Album. Track 3 of that record is a nostalgic journey down a music-filled memory lane of the upbringing and formative years of frontman Rivers Cuomo in a ballad called Heart Songs. The lyrics culminate in his own experience of turning all of the musical influences of his life into his own opportunity to write, record, and perform music that went on to impact and inspire others. This podcast, similarly, traces the impact of music as it has highlighted and even inspired the life experiences of its guests. My name is Adam Blaylock. Welcome to Heart Songs, the podcast. This week on Heart Songs, the podcast, we have a Nashville singer-songwriter by way of Australia. Please enjoy Imogen Clark.
Gordon Lightfoot sang a song about a boat that sank in the lake at the break of the morning. A cat named Steve.
When I was growing up, my parents loved this record called The American by Martin Sexton, and I heard it all the time. It was always playing around the house while we were doing chores on the weekend, or it was playing in the car when we were driving anywhere. And my parents had discovered him because he'd visited Australia and played on the radio and did this live version of a song from the album The American. It was called The Way I Am.
His wife had left him just a week before. She packed up her bags and she waltzed on out the door. And she said, you know, I don't like the way I am. You know, I don't like the way I am. And then she cried right out loud. She sang, hey, hello, hey, hey, hello, hey, hey, hello.
And there's sections in the song where he yodels and uses his voice to play, different characters in the song. And it's one of those songs that, came into my life so early. I was, I think I would have only been about 8 when this happened. But I remember just feeling so connected to the song and so impressed by the way he used his voice to tell a really harrowing story about humanity and the way that he played these characters. And it was such an eye-opening experience for me as a young person who was starting to get introduced to music and starting to get interested in music, to hear the way someone could use their voice and use their songwriting in such a way. So that album, that song and that whole album really, The American by Martin Sexton, it's really remained with me for a really long time, and I still listen to that record constantly.
These are the songs I keep singing. Quiet Riot got me started with the banging of my head. Iron Maiden, Judas Priest and Slayer.
In 2014, I took my first trip to Nashville from Sydney, Australia, where I grew up. And it was for the Americana Music Festival. So I went along to the awards show at the Ryman, and I saw this guy get up and accept a ton of awards for this album called Southeastern. And I had never heard of him before. His name was Jason Isbell, and I was immediately like, I've got to check out this guy's music. Like, he's winning all these awards. He must be really good. So I went and bought Southeastern and immediately fell in love with the album. But more so than that, what I realized from discovering his music is that I felt like maybe there was a place for me in this kind of Americana genre, this sort of Southern rock, Americana, indie, singer-songwriter sort of melding of all of these genres that I always felt a bit out of place in Australia because I didn't feel like there was a place for me, with all those influences. And then I discovered Jason Isbell's music, and it really put me on a certain path. And there's a song on that record, Southeastern, called Elephant.
If I'd fucked her before she got sick, I'd never hear the end of it. she don't have the spirit for that now. We just drink our drinks and laugh out loud, bitch about the weekend crowd, and try to ignore the elephant somehow.
Which is just a harrowingly devastating story, but just told so beautifully. And it's a song I will always, have as a very important part of my life. And discovering Jason Isbell's music really, was just such an inspirational moment for me.
These are the songs I keep singing. Back in 1991, I wasn't having any fun till my roommate said, come on and put a brand new record on. Had a baby on.
I think it took me a really long time to realize and learn the lesson that artists can be many things, and not only can they be many things, but I think that's actually a great thing when they're influenced by lots of different genres and they have different facets of their personality and their musicality. So, part of discovering this was listening to Bruce Springsteen's song Atlantic City.
Everything dies, baby, that's a fact. Maybe everything that dies someday comes back. Put your makeup on, fix your hair pretty, and meet me tonight in Atlantic City.
I had grown up knowing Bruce Springsteen, vaguely. He wasn't really a part of my childhood listening, but I discovered him a bit later in life, and I knew him as Born in the USA Springsteen with the denim jeans and the white top and the American flag, and just that glory days guy who's rocking out with a full band. But then when I first heard Atlantic City, I didn't realize it was Springsteen, and it made me delve into his album Nebraska. And I was like, this is so cool that he can rock out with this band and absolutely tear it up. But then he can also sit there with an acoustic guitar and play this heart-wrenching song. And so I think that was a big lesson for me in realizing that who I want to be as an artist is someone who can do all of those things, who has those, who is multifaceted. My goal in my musical life has always been to create music that makes other people feel the way I feel when I listen to my favorite music. So, it makes, music I love makes me feel connected to other people. It makes me feel like I'm not alone. It brings me joy. It also makes me feel like I'm not suffering by myself. It helps me understand the human condition a little bit more. It's cathartic. All those sorts of things are what I hope people get from my music as well. And that's my main goal. However that manifests, whatever that looks like, that's always been my biggest goal in music. And so I really hope that, I have songs in my catalog that are about struggling with mental health issues or struggling with an eating disorder or, learning who you are through breaking up with someone that is wrong for you, or having to leave your small town to realize who you are and the challenges that come with making a new life across the ocean in a different, hemisphere. And so all of those things, they may or may not be stories that exactly relate to any of my listeners, but I hope they can hear some of their life in the songs and feel comforted by that, and we can connect in that way. I have a song called The Last of Me.
But it's one step, two steps. My mother cries as she's holding my hand. And it's 3 steps, 4 steps. Running to the rhythm of you haven't seen the last of me. You haven't seen the last of me. Yeah, you haven't seen
about struggling through a period of depression and darkness and feeling like you're saying to yourself as a mantra, no one's seen the last of me, this isn't the last of me, and I'm going to get through this and come out the other side, a stronger person. And so that's a song that's really important to me, and a song that I hope will be meaningful to other people.
Thank you for joining us for Heart Songs, the podcast. If you'd like to be considered to be a guest in a future episode, please email the podcast at heartsongsthepodcast@gmail.com. See you next time.